Okay, I'd like to call this November 28th Spaney Board of Education meeting to order. Stand pledge.
I need a roll.
Oh, yeah, roll call, sorry.
Ms. Hoffman?
Here.
Mrs. Conklin?
Here.
Mrs. Lavalette?
Here.
Mrs. Johnson?
Here.
Greg is absent.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You want to make your announcement?
I sure do. Thank you, Ms. Conklin. It is my absolute pleasure to announce this evening. Mr. Coates just gave us this information as we walked into the room. You may recall that last year, Southview and McCord Junior High applied for 2 school security grants, and they were awarded $50,000 last year. And this year, we re-upped, and Susie Felber took it upon herself to write grants for all 12 of our buildings this year, up to the maximum amount, which was $100,000 per building. And we received news this afternoon that all 12 of our schools, correct?
Yeah, so everyone but Southview will get 100 grand.
100 grand. So we will now have 1.1 million to spend in our district to support school security and safety measures. That is alternate funding, not from the general fund, but we'll be able to take on measures that we have been looking for that will improve the safety for our students each and every day while they're in our buildings and our staff. So this is exciting. I am absolutely thrilled that we have this opportunity, that we are able to really accomplish some things that have been on our list for some years. And so thank you to Adam for bringing it to the meeting tonight, because I was not made aware. He was just made aware. I think Susie has jury duty for the last, today and tomorrow maybe, but a huge thank you for Susie for taking the time and having the vision to say, let's go for it and see what we can do. So kudos to you, Susie Felber. We're so glad to have you a part of our team and looking out for all the students in Sylvania schools. So thank you.
That's incredible, it's really great news. Thank you, Susie.
1.1 million.
We should probably honor Susie at a board meeting for taking that initiative.
Certainly do that, certainly.
Mr. Coe?
All right, so I have about 6 items tonight. Let's do it in consent, but at first I'll just go over my forecast presentation, give you a little brief overview of that, and you guys can ask questions and we can go into as much detail as you guys like. But I put the document there that I emailed you guys out with our forecast and assumptions for the November 2022 update, which covers fiscal years 23 through 27. I'm gonna basically take the forecast and divide it up: revenues, expenses, fund balances, highlight the major areas, and then you guys can feel free to ask questions throughout this presentation or at the end. So first up, we have general fund revenue, which you have 2020 through 2022 actuals, and then we have the forecasted 5 years. So you'll notice revenues went up from 21 to 22. We had a couple one-time adjustments in real estate, some delinquent collections, and a couple other one-time BWC reimbursements there in 2022. So you'll see about 3.5% increase from 21 to 22. So I don't expect that to continue, unfortunately. And then we did have some advances that kind of inflated that number, but ultimately will not have a negative impact on our fund balance, because you do an advance 1 year and then in 1 year out the other, so that won't impact the actual fund balance. So if we focus on 23 through 27, I'll highlight the major areas. Real estate obviously is our number one revenue source in the general fund. Starting out for fiscal year 23, we're looking at a very, very small increase. Again, 2022 was assessed values with a triennial update. Our values did increase district-wide by 11.6%, but that doesn't correlate to a 11% increase in revenues by any means. They just take the voted mills, reduce it down to an effective rate. But we do see a small increase on the inside mills, which is 5. It's just the complicated collection process for real estate. But in general, assessed values does get us a little bit of an increase. The one area we are seeing some growth still in Sylvania. We're getting a little landlocked, but we still have some new developments going on. New construction is about $9.5 million, so we will see additional revenue from that. And then I forecasted about a 1.5% increase in 24 through 27. We have collected half of our collections this year, and because of about because of a one-time kind of catch-up payment, I do not anticipate a 5.72% increase like we did the year before. But, I mean, reality of it is there's a little bit steady growth there for over 60% of our revenues when it comes to real estate. Unrestricted grants and foundation is really our money from the state of Ohio. Year to date, it's trending towards about a 1% decrease. One-time transportation adjustment, a decrease in a couple other line items that make up that long, complicated formula. But you'll notice in between FY 21 and 22, you'll see a decrease of 11%. That's kind of a fake number, if you will. 2022 was the first year of the state funding formula called the Fair Funding Plan. And what we did, in the past years, you would get all the money and then you'd have to send money to charter schools and open enrolled out students. You basically recorded everything at gross and then you sent the money out through expenses. But in 2022, all the money going to students outside of Sylvania, they lived here but they went to charter schools, got open enrolled to various districts throughout. That money was not sent to us and then we sent it out. So we just got the net of that state revenue. So that's why it went from 18 to 16. But really was a net neutral, net impact was not.
Wouldn't it be a little bit in our favor actually?
Yeah,
though, because more was going out than was coming in.
Yep, so basically we get funded per student now. And it was actually a little bit of an increase from previous years overall, the net impact of that. I'll kind of go into this later, but 2023 is a state budget year. So I factored in a 1% increase moving forward in 24 through 27. That's kind of the big unknown at this point. We don't know what the state funding formula is going to look like. There's talk that the Fair Funding Plan might go away and they might do something different, and it's just really an unknown at this time, and we probably won't know until June or so what that's going to be. But I keep up on like state tax collections in Ohio in general with the state tax collections, both income and sales tax and all that. I mean, it's revenues it's trending upwards. So there should be some money for schools in the next budget cycle. It's just how that gets funded, we don't know at this time. Some other highlights, again, if you look at overall pie chart, your revenue from the real estate, tangible personal, and state foundation makes up 85% of our revenue, if not more. So just other revenue highlights that I wanted to touch base on. In the current economy, government investments generally are not that high, but in the current economy, the interest revenue that we are receiving is the interest rates are going up at a really great rate. Not great for the economy, but in a downturn in the economy, generally secure investments are the only ones that we can invest in. So secure bonds, generally go up in interest rates. So our fund balance reserves are making us a decent amount of money, which we expect to get $400,000 to $500,000 additional revenue this year in our interest revenue. Medicaid reimbursements, still a large line item. I anticipate these to go down about 200,000 this year, and it's nothing necessarily that we did, it was a timing issue. We actually got an extra payment last fiscal year, so we'll get one less payment this year. So that will have a little bit of an impact. Tuition, we receive some money from other districts if they have a foster student that's placed in Sylvania in regards to special ed or other types of tuition. And that's steady, again, $400,000 or $500,000 worth of revenue for us. So that is a nice steady revenue stream that I don't anticipate changing much. And then I talked a little bit about this earlier, we don't advance money anymore to our federal funds at the end of June. We can allow those to go negative, so there was no advances this year, which is why our revenues increased tremendously, a little bit in FY22, but are not going to go up as much in 23, and that's a lot of one-time advances that will have no impact on the general fund balance, but it is a decrease in our revenues. So, but overall, as I mentioned here, pretty steady increase. A little bit over 1% moving forward, forecasted in the general fund. Expenses, I know that's a little bit small, but I just wanted to highlight here. Generally, we're in the people business, right? So 85% of our expenses are salaries and benefits, which is a little bit. You like to see that number around 80%. Ours are creeping up to 85 throughout or last year, and will go up a little bit each year, percentage-wise. So, and then that's kind of the lay of the land with expenses. What I'm thinking, you'll see 2020 through 2022 actual expenses, and then our forecast. This year, we are leveraging as much federal grants as we can through ESSER funds and through special education funds. So you'll see our expenses are only going to go up, forecasted only go up 1.7%. And then moving forward, 2024 through 27, I think they're going to, go up about 4%. 2025 is the larger number there, is because we have some grants that are going to go away. We have some ESSER funds that we are using, and some of those funds, some of those expenses will come back to the general fund in fiscal year 2025. So that's why that's a little bit higher than the other years
So,
of the forecast.
What kind of raises did you put in here? Did you put?
Yeah, I factored in a raise, and I factored in the steps, and I also factored in, and I'll go through that when I get to benefits, but an increase in our insurance benefits, which is a major line item when we're looking at our benefits. So a couple things, I mentioned this earlier. You got the change in state funding formula caused the expenses to decrease in 2022. So overall, we decreased our expenses by 2.25%. A lot of that is because of that state funding change. And then, like I said, 85% of our total costs are salaries and benefits. Things to keep our eye on, maintenance costs, fuel, our substitute wages continue to increase. We're on pace for a 44% increase in substitute wages this year through our certified and classified employees. And then just our inflation, related expenses. Utility costs are going up. Our custodial supplies. Just like we all are experiencing at home, we're going to experience some of that here. So personnel services, which are wages, like I said, substitutes and overtime costs continue to increase, and it's one thing that we're diving into to see if we can, what we can do to curb that increase. You'll notice in FY25, we have some salaries coming back to the general fund as of now, so that's why you'll see a 6% increase in fiscal year 25 compared to 4 and 5% in the other years. A couple of the unknowns here, we have retirements and enrollment. I've factored in 4 or 5 retirements, we had until February 1st. the end of February, to really know who's going to retire. And that's how we'll get, you achieve some financial savings when it comes to our higher tenured teachers and employees at the higher end of the pay scale, and we bring in our new employees. So, and enrollment, our enrollment's pretty steady here, but as students come in, we have increased. We have some increase in special ed populations, some EL students that have impacted our costs here, and could impact this line item moving forward as well. And then insurance, kudos to all of you guys and that have helped manage the insurance expenses. When it comes to about $22 million over the expenses, 40% of that is medical and dental insurance. And in 2022 and 2023, we had a 0% increase on our premiums, which is outstanding in this environment, healthcare environment that we do live in right now. Prescription costs are skyrocketing, and we're able to lock in 0% for 22 and 23. I do have a 6% increase built in 24 through 27. That's it's still an unknown. I think 6% would be really good. And that's what I'm hoping it is. But you just never know. That is one of the things that is on my page one of my to-do list, is to dive into insurance and work with our unions and really understand our spend and see what we can do to save money without impacting that benefit that we do provide to our employees. Severance.
Because if that's like 10 or 15%, then that changes everything.
Correct. Yeah. We are capped at 8%. We are capped at 8% for 2024. Now, 2022, 2021 and 2022 claims were good. So we have 2 really good years. Well, we have a couple more months left to 2022, but a couple of good years will help curb that increase of 8%. Severance, we started a severance fund last year to kind of balance our severance payments and for budgetary ease there. So we have a transfer out every year to our severance fund, and then we'll pay severances out of that fund so that we can maintain a consistent spend on the general. And then, obviously, SERS and STRS, which is our retirement pension systems, are increased based on the percentage increase that I factored in for salaries. But overall, you're looking at, about an average of 4.5%, 5%. So not too bad there on the benefit side. And then really, again, 87% of our expenses are salaries and benefits. So the other line items have small increases projected, 1% to 2%, because we're going to dive into really everything we spend and a new set of eyes and what we're doing operationally to make sure that we are efficient and effective spending on our dollars there. So operations, we're doing some preventative maintenance plans with Ray, and with roofs and HVACs. We do have a big HVAC project this summer. Unfortunately, we have to spend at Northview, but we're hoping to have enough money left over in our PI fund to use that, so we don't have to use general fund money. We're going to leverage as many grants and PI fund for buses. We do have a need for buses. And then in the near short term, we're looking at probably having to buy about 10 buses in the next 2 to 3 years. But we're going to be able to leverage some ESSER money, some PI money, and a little bit of general fund to help, with that expense. Special education services continue to be on the rise, and that's just really based on our student population, with the need for additional staff members in preschool and in K through 12 there. Insurance has gone up a little bit. Cyber insurance is a big ticket item these days, in the world we live in, unfortunately, and we had a pretty big increase on our cyber insurance this year, but I believe it's a good use of funds, because if we get attacked, who knows what, it could happen. We do it, our tech director and her staff does a phenomenal job with, security, but you just never know. So that is an increase. And then you put it all together, and this is our revenue compared to our expenses. We're looking at projected, as of right now, deficit spending in fiscal year 2025, so 24-25 school year. And then it increases each year after that. Again, kind of anytime you do a forecast, and with, schools, being in the kid business and the personnel, you just never know. It's hard to forecast what really is going to happen in 26 and 27. But you do the best you can based on trends. I build a kind of month by month forecast together, and in future months I will update you guys and kind of see where we are. So that after every month of actuals, I'll put the actuals in there, and then it'll help kind of see where we are compared to what I projected. So it'll allow us to use trends and use actuals, so I can update you guys in almost real time how our forecast is throughout the fiscal year. And then you compare that, the revenue and expenses, then you compare the fund balances. 23-24, we're looking at about $34 million fund balance, and then going down 30, in fiscal year 25 right now, I forecast $4 million with the deficit spending, and then it increases from there, leaving a fund balance still in the positive by $13 million in fiscal year 27. So I guess kind of where do we go from here? The admin team and our entire staff, we're going to look at all areas of our budget, focus on those efficiencies. Again, it's only my 4th month on the job, so new set of eyes. I'm kind of excited to get this wrapped up, and then really take a deep dive into where we spend our money, work on budgets for next year with all the directors and the principals with the building budgets. Dr. Motley talked about outside grants. We'll continue to look for those, and the $1 million grant that we're getting for safety and security will help tremendously. I mean, those cameras throughout district-wide, are needed, and we were going to have to find a way to get up in the 21st century anyway, and the $1 million is going to help tremendously. So we'll continue to look for those outside resources.
So the $1 million that we found out of today doesn't really affect the 5-year forecast, because it's not going to take any pressure off of the 5-year forecast. It's going to be for other things that we needed, but
Yeah.
we didn't have money.
Yeah.
And it may offset some replacement cameras that have gone bad that we need to replace, but it'll be minimal, it'll be significant. Because we have a rotation for some of those. I know we have some cameras, I believe, that aren't digital in some of our buildings, so where we would have had to set aside general fund money to replace those. Now we have money to do, or the cameras that are also connected to our big sensors, where we get to buy those. Now we have to use this money to buy that and save our general fund.
So then again, we have some preventative maintenance plans, operations, our buildings, we have a wide range of buildings throughout our district. Some that are, need a little bit more TLC than others, but our staff is doing a really good job of trying to determine the need and put together some plans to properly maintain our buildings campus-wide, with HVAC preventative maintenance plans, roofing, things like that will help prolong the useful life of our buildings. And then I talked a little bit about that monthly analysis and real-time forecast that I'll share with you in months to come, and then kind of go from there. But, my contact information, but
I think we all know how to get a hold of it.
Yeah.
It's more for maybe the 2 people that are watching.
They watch it, don't they?
So,
So,
that's the update on the forecast.
so I'm gonna ask the dreaded question that you have to swallow hard to say. Levy, levy cycle is normally like 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
Are we looking at it anywhere, you guys see we're deficit spending?
Yeah, we're deficit spending in 25. A lot can happen from now until then. Do I think it's in the next 2 years? Probably not. But I think time will tell. Time, it'll give us all time to really dive into our staffing levels, really dive into those areas that we want to make sure that we're operating as most efficiently as we can.
When was the last levy?
2016, is that right?
Yes, 2016.
So we're over 5 years.
Yeah, the levy cycle is like 5 to 7 years, so we're definitely beyond that.
It
Before
was
that,
November of 16, so it's been 6 years.
Yeah. We should be up. But not that long.
Adam, did you say 44% increase in substitute wages in fiscal
Yeah.
year 22 over 21?
No, we're on pace for 44% increase.
Like over the preceding year?
Mhm. Yeah.
Is
And that includes subs, that includes temporary wait, overtime costs, that includes, extra duty pay, things of that nature. Which equates to over about a 2-year period, $300,000-$400,000 increase from prior years.
And why is that?
COVID has a little bit to do with that.
Well, it's hard to compare.
It's hard,
Year,
yeah.
because that's an amount.
So people are off sick. We do have a couple long-term absences that are impacting that. If we have a few teachers, I think we have 3 or 4 teachers out on extended leave, so we're still paying them, and we're paying, basically for a brand new teacher at $40,000 plus insurance benefits, so it adds up.
Seems like the impact of COVID would be diminishing this year.
Yeah.
As opposed to last year, not 44% increases would be massive.
That's what I project. If we have a
Yeah.
couple good months, that's the trend. Is the booklet okay? You like that?
Yeah, I like
Yeah, thank you.
It's great examples of what it is.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of 5-year forecasts. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna read it more definitely. Well, thank you.
All right, I'll just kind of go through my agenda items. 2.1, board minutes from November 7th. And then you got the month end for October, which I pretty much touched on in my forecast presentation. Availability of funds, just a few there. And with the fuel, and then the athletic boosters that, was really not an impact on us. It just on accident got collected, by us, so we had to give it back to them. So that's that. 2 new funds. We have a new teacher that is doing some med tech stuff. She has a class at Northview and Southview. So she is going to set up her own student activities fund, so we needed to do that. 5-year forecast, 2.5. 2.6, we just had a few grant changes and student activity changes, so I do need approval of those appropriation changes, which is your document that I put on your desk that, as Kim stated, was scary. It's really just a formality that I need to submit to Lucas County, so that's what those changes are. So. And then just 2.7, if I could get approval in consent.
I'll move it on a percentage agenda basis, items 2.1 through 2.6.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? Call the roll?
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Dr. Motley?
I recommend the approval of item 3.1, the acceptance of gifts. We have a donation of 44 bottles of nail polish for the Northview Cosmetology Program from Main Street Salon and Spa In addition, we have a donation from MVM Moving and Storage to support our Northview Powerlifting Club. The total contribution amount is $1,000.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. Any questions, comments?
That's very generous. isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Very generous.
Call the roll?
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 3.2. It is a policy for a first read regarding therapy dogs in our school buildings. It's just for discussion.
So I was looking through this. First of all, go ahead, I'll move approval.
we don't.
It's just-
So it's for a first read, okay. So these are gonna be therapy dogs that handlers will bring in to students, or are we talking students that have therapy dogs, we bringing them
There
in?
are therapy dogs and handlers bringing the students. We currently have 4 in our district right now, Scranton, Timberstone, Whiteford, and Central Trail. Those teachers / administrators go through specific training to be the handlers, and then they bring the dogs into school. We have Arbor Hills, excuse me, and Arbor Hills and Hillview are in the process of getting trainers qualified as handlers as well right now. So it just makes sense. We're gonna have 6 dogs. They're very popular. They're great for students and staff to have some policy in place. We do, as of right now, uphold all of these policies. Neola didn't have any templates. I actually worked with the superintendent of Riverdale Schools, kind of used their policy and then modified it on how we wanted to have it for our district. So not just anybody who can just bring a dog in. The dogs have to go through appropriate training through the Ability Center, et cetera, as well as the handlers.
Do we have anything that says we need confirmation from a healthcare provider that the student, the child actually needs a therapy dog? Or is there no, do you know what I'm
I
saying?
think that's a difference whether it be a student or an employee for a service animal. Like, we have an employee at Northview who has a service animal. These are separate therapy dogs.
right.
So I don't know if there's
But-
anything that states that a student needs a therapy dog. It would be more a service animal.
But that's not what this policy is about, right?
This policy is not about a service. That's a whole separate ADA piece that,
Right.
that's kind of
This
a
is
law
just-
problem. This is for the therapy dogs we have for.
I don't think they go to specific kids.
No.
Yeah, they're just the dogs in the school.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, so it'd be like a therapy dog in
In
an
a
oncology
counselor's
unit
office.
or
Yeah,
something like that?
absolutely.
Okay, okay.
Like in the counselor's office when the kids come down,
Yep.
petting the dog. and
Got it,
the
okay.
Calm them down, it's pretty great. And I'm,
Okay.
you know, right.
Yeah, it works.
I know in the past, over, the last few years, we've had some complaints, it looks like, about kids that might be afraid of dogs or they have allergies. It sort of looks like you addressed that.
It does.
Yeah.
It
So,
does.
thank
Yes.
you for addressing that, because that's what I was looking for, because I know prior to the policy, I think.
Yeah, we
Probably
pretty
when we
much just
started,
had to,
yeah.
yes, we had to reach out and found out from a reactive standpoint, the student has some pretty acute allergies that were rare.
Right.
Had to make some modifications to tagging and animal sites.
And from an insurance side of things, we're all square. They're added to our insurance policy. Everything's good there.
Yeah, that was the big piece. It's actually letter K.
Yes.
That was the big change between Riverdale and us, where Riverdale said if any damages or injuries caused by the dog are specifically the handler's responsibility. Adam worked with our insurance company. It's minimal to add them to our policy where it would be the responsibility of the district. Knock on wood, we haven't had any issues.
And all the
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, the handlers are all gonna be our employees.
There are
Right.
employees anyways, yes.
And those dogs are doing a great service for
Yes.
our students and our staff in our building, so that would be right. I think that's right.
I think there's a couple, oh, go ahead.
Do we have any limit as to how many therapy dogs we can have at one time? And,
Currently, we're only allowing 1 per building.
oh, okay.
So we have had an elementary ask for a second one. We're gonna hold off on that until even though we've been doing this for a handful of years, let's get the policy in place and see how it continues with some official language. And as I said to the principal, we can evaluate that, they can look understood.
Just a couple of things in the language of the specific policy. I mean, sixth paragraph down, just at the beginning, it says a therapy dog is the personal property of the handler and/or the school building or district. I mean, we're not gonna be owning therapy dogs.
No, so that's a good point, like a good question, like for example, on the registration for like Timberstone's therapy dog, it is the personal, the registration says it's the property of Timberstone Junior High School, even though it's technically the counselors at Timberstone Junior High. So we added that language, the and/or piece, the personal property of the handler and/or school building or district, so we didn't have to go back and change all of those, or change that one specifically.
I mean, can the schools actually own things that the district doesn't own? Do the schools have individual ownership rights of things? Wouldn't everything belong to that was owned by a school actually be owned by the district?
I agree, yes, it's a part of the district.
But I think, because you're talking about the Timberstone, because when that dog was like certified,
It was Timberstone's.
Timberstone, so I think that's what the language is, because that's what they did a few years ago, because I remember us discussing it.
Yes.
But it doesn't belong to Timbers, so.
Nobody, but it did, like, when it got certified, it was certified for Timberstone.
Well-
Well,
and
the
then-
certification is different than the ownership. isn't it?
Here's the
Yeah.
piece with that as well. If the current handler at Timberstone left and went to Arbor Hills, that dog wouldn't go to Arbor Hills. That dog went through the training through the Ability Center for Timberstone. So there would need to be a new handler trained at Timberstone who would then take possession of the dog, so the dog would stay in that building. So that was a piece of that language as well.
And that did happen.
So that the dog lives with a staff member, am I
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Correct.
But
So a
that-
new-
But the district owns the dog? Is-
In this case, it's, the point being when the previous principal, when Mike Bader went through the training with the Ability Center, the goal was to have the dog stay at Timberstone regardless. I mean, it's a perfect example. Brittany Robbins, who's now an assistant principal, she used to be the handler. That dog didn't go with Brittany to Maplewood and Hillview. That dog stayed at Timberstone, and now Rochelle Ford, I believe, is the handler. So that's part of that language when getting certification specifically through the Ability Center, that was going to be Timberstone's dog. So the language may be a little vague, but there needs to be a new handler that stays within that building that will take control of it.
Because the dog
So-
belongs to the building.
So
Correct.
if the handler wants to keep the dog and not, then it would, does the handler have the option to keep the dog, or does the handler have to give the dog to somebody
It
else?
was known that the handler had to give the dog up. Brittany gave the dog to a different staff member at Timberstone.
Is there a cost associated with acquiring dogs?
I'm not positive on that.
I don't recall it. I mean, it seems like there would be, but I don't recall us paying.
I mean, we don't,
So it sounds like the district does own dogs.
but we don't pay for food or anything.
We don't pay for food and things.
Does, who does, I mean, the handler does?
Handler does, yes.
Whoever's- So is it a voluntary position, they get a stipend?
It's a voluntary position. You basically get a dog.
But generally, they have a wish list,
They do.
like an Amazon wish list
They do.
through their PTO
Yep.
to support the needs of the
You're
dog.
100% correct on that, yes.
But,
Go ahead.
so I'm just, but the dog could change, I mean, I'm guessing the Ability Center, it's okay for the dogs to change ownership like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, it's really changing hands.
That's what I meant.
They have to go
Who
through
the dog lives with.
They have to go
Ownership is
through
with
that.
Timberstone,
Got
it.
so really
But-
technically Timberstone, so
I
it's
mean-
the handler.
And I
From a
also-
dog's perspective, which I always like to think, from a dog's perspective.
And in the case of Timberstone, I know that Rochelle and Brittany also shared and handled the dog certain times throughout the school year. So the dog would sometimes go home with Brittany and sometimes would go home with Rochelle. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, Brittany just from a dog's perspective.
It was like a shared period.
I'm a little bit-
Yeah, that's it.
For the dog.
It really was.
It's that abandoned.
The attachments that are required at the end requires, one of them is proof of an insurance policy providing liability. Is the handler supposed to provide?
Well, the handler is
coverage
responsible,
too?
the handler is responsible for any issues that take place outside of school grounds and/or a working environment. So we do still require that, generally that falls underneath their homeowner's insurance, but we do require that they have that if they have it at home in case something else happens. Not necessarily our responsibility, but just kind of what we followed up with that Riverdale used with their policy to make sure that dog is covered.
Are we limited with the type of breed of dog or?
Yeah, there are limitations that, I don't know if it's in the actual policy or not.
Didn't see it,
I
that's,
think
but-
it's not there.
But I know there are certain dogs that aren't trained to be therapy dogs.
Like Rottweilers.
And I've heard pit bulls as well.
The Ability Center handles all that.
Yeah, they do,
though.
yes, yes.
It's last.
I'm hoping a Cavapoo will be considered.
Yeah.
You gonna offer up your cat?
I would love to have a cricket be a support animal therapy dog.
So then you lose him.
Yeah, I know.
It's not yours anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's that.
And troubled by the legal ownership of a dog situation.
Tore up a pair of my favorite shoes. That was a movie I gave away. Okay,
All right.
thank you. I recommend item 3.3, the approval of a transportation contract for a special needs student for 7 days of transportation and reimbursement.
On approval of item 3.3.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? Call roll.
Tammy,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 3.4 and amended district calendar for the 23-24 school year.
I move approval.
I'll second.
Any questions?
I can give some justification for it. So every year, calendar committee that consists of SEA, OPSI members, and administration, we like to set the calendar for 2 years out, so we're currently working on it, and I hope to have it to you in December, if not in January. We're working on the 24-25 calendar, but we also take a look at the next year's calendar as well, which in this case is 23-24. I think it's important to know, even though this has been board approved, we haven't made any changes to start dates or end dates or winter break. There's going to be one slight day in spring break that I'll talk about. But the main issues that we wanted to change were, one, the staggered starts this year for grades 1 through 5. We went 3 days for grades 1 through 3 and then 2 days for grades 4 through 5. Made it kind of an issue for parents who had siblings who were a 2nd grader and a 5th grader. Some were going to school on Tuesday, some were going to school on Wednesday, and it made an issue. So we're switching that to 2 days next year. The staggered starts will only take place on August 21st and August 22nd. The other piece is for spring break next year, which took place March 25th through the 29th. The Good Friday / OPSI Day holiday actually fell on that day of March 29th, so over our spring break. So we had another day to use somewhere else for no school for students and staff. We were originally going to go with April 1st, which extended our spring break by an additional day. We've decided to move that April 1st day to April 8th, which was a professional learning day. April 8th, if you're not aware of 2024, is a solar eclipse. There's going to be a zone of totality that takes place in Wood County. It's going to hit a lot of Sylvania. You may recall the eclipse that took place about 5 or 6 years ago. It didn't go the best, even though there wasn't a zone of totality. The one issue we had with the calendar committee that we recommended is that totality doesn't take place until right around 3 o'clock and 3:10. So even if we wanted to use it as a learning experience, 5 of our buildings are going to be out or dismissing. For safety issues, I'll just say for kindergartners who are getting on our early buses at Whiteford and Sylvan, with an eclipse taking place, we can tell them as much as we want not to look up there, but we can't stand over all to make sure that doesn't happen. So we're going to use that day, April 8th is the day off for the eclipse, and then the professional learning day that was originally scheduled for April 8th is going to be moved to Tuesday, May 7th, which is a presidential primary election day, which would probably be a good day that our students are in session that day as well. Adam actually shared, and I'm not throwing him under the bus, I don't have it with me, but the EMA director in Wood County, this is like a once in like 80-some year eclipse where totality takes place right over, I think it's actually like right over Stranahan Elementary and then extends.
Yeah, Wildwood is the edge.
Yeah, extends south to like Wood County. I mean, he's talked about, I know it's just one person's, it's just one person's opinion, but he's talked about
I already have
gridlock,
glasses.
gridlock and cell phone service
I
going
do, I bought
down,
them here.
and just it's gonna be a huge, like, everybody in the country is gonna wanna come to Northwest Ohio to see this, so.
Are you serious? The only place where the totality is?
I will share,
It's a band.
There's a band,
You
but-
feel it, right? This sounds crazy.
I'll share the article that Adam shared with me, it's pretty legit.
I mean,
It's pretty intense.
It
It
is,
is.
it is.
And then if, just from a safety standpoint, if cell phones don't work and bus radios don't work and the gridlock type deal, I mean, that would be a.
This sounds like, you know,
Julie,
maybe
we
1999 all over.
we packed up and drove our entire family to southern Kentucky to watch the one in August of 2017, I think. And it was a zoo. Like, we were at some town in southern Kentucky no one's ever heard of, and it took us hours to get out of there driving up through Indianapolis.
That's coming through Northwest.
So I'm one of those crazy people.
So how big is the band?
It goes to Cleveland.
But I mean, how wide then? You said over Stranahan.
It starts, the very edge, it goes from Stranahan to the Cleveland area. So like the long, and that's the whole totality, but it's,
So you have glasses for something that's gonna happen in April of 2024.
yeah, because last year people were selling them, or in 2017, people were selling them for like $20 a piece for those little paper ones when it got close. You will come to me for glasses.
Yeah.
Pinhole in a cardboard.
I mean, I remember in 17 what happened, I got glasses for our entire school, and it was, I mean, I remember getting complaints though.
So,
Like, it was-
yeah, I remember getting complaints as well, and I guess the big thing for me is we can make this a district-wide learning environment and start purchasing glasses now if it happened at 11 in the morning. But because it's at 3 o'clock, 3:08 in the afternoon, I don't
We
love
can't black
that.
out all the windows on the bus.
I don't love that, specifically with Sylvan and
Right.
It'll probably be cloudy and raining.
yeah, it probably
It's April.
will, but I think we had the day, we're being proactive, just like we are with the May 7th election day, so that's a change.
And it was really cool in 2017.
It was.
We went to totality,
Yeah, so that's the changes for 23.
and I'm a nerd.
It is cool.
So I just thought of something new for my kids' Christmas list.
There you go.
Eclipse glasses.
It hasn't really hit. I mean, I think it's probably, I would assume in a year from now, people will start talking
Yeah.
about it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
even talking to other districts, what are you guys doing for this? We're like, what are you talking about? Some have been proactive, said, yeah, we're not going to school, we're going to play it by ear. If we need to cancel, we will, but we're just trying to be proactive as much as possible.
Well, we appreciate that.
All right, Julie,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Jill.
Yes.
Thank you. I recommend item 3.5, a service agreement for Bittersweet Incorporated to support the needs of a student with special needs.
One second.
Any questions, comments?
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Tammy.
Yes.
Thank you. And for tonight, we have Mr. Seeroff and for Mr. Tagorski.
Oh, I'm gonna have a lot of questions.
Perfect. As long as not, they can't be any more than I would have already had. So. I'd like to recommend the board on a consent agenda basis, items 4.1 through 4.5 on the license side. Those include substitute teachers, substitute resignation, license retirements of Arlene LaPlante, 19 years of service, third grade teacher at Central Trail, and Debbie Bishop, 17 years of service, first grade teacher at Highland Elementary, so thank you to both of those individuals. An unpaid leave of absence and extra duty, and recommended on 4.6 on a consent agenda basis.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 4.1 through 4.5.
I'll second.
Any questions?
Julie,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Kim.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the classified side, I'd like to recommend again on a consent agenda basis, items 5.1 through 5.4. Those include new hires, personnel changes, retirements. Cynthia Hoffman, 6 years of service. Tammy Recklaw, 25 years of service. And Regina Llewellyn, 36 years of service to the district. So thank you to all of those ladies. She's also lives right next door to Arbor Hills Junior High, and I know she spent a lot of time there, Regina has, so huge advocate for the district. So thank you again to all of them. Item 5.4, classified resignation, and the consent agenda items in 5.5.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 5.1 through 5.4.
I'll second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Julie,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Thank you. And then finally, the supplementals. I'd like to recommend on a consent agenda basis, items 6.1 through 6.3. Those are supplemental positions, athletic volunteers, and stipends for the 22-23 school year.
I'll move approval on a consent agenda basis, items 6.1 through 6.3 of the agenda.
I'll second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Tammy,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yep.
Jill.
Yep.
Okay. And we are now going to go into executive session for the purpose of negotiations, employment of public employees, personnel. Call the roll.
Who motioned?
Motion.
I'll move.
All right, so Jill first, Julie second. Julie,
Yes.
Kim,
Yep.
Tammy,
Yes.
Jill.
Yes.
Yeah, and we will not be taking action after executive session.